This is going to be a bit of a different video in comparison to the kind of content we have produced thus far. I'm happy to announce that this will be the start of a new recurring series here at Dissension Media. It will be titled The Morality of series, where instead of creating a formal review or attributing a score at the end of the video, I will instead be analysing individual games, movies, or TV shows that have inherent value beyond that of entertainment. Pieces of media that ask deep philosophical questions or stimulate its audience by interesting portrayals of morality. With that in mind, let's delve into our first addition to the Morality of series, which will be the crowd-funded Infinite Fall game called Night in the Woods. Also keep in mind that things are about to get very spoiler heavy. Night in the Woods is an adventure exploration game that explores complex themes of finding one's identity, dealing with abuse, dealing with loss, balancing responsibilities, watching the degradation of the place you grew up in, and the intricate struggles of young adulthood in 2017. Most characters present in the game are remarkably fleshed out, and each have their own individual dilemmas that haunt as well as motivate them forward. Three of the game's primary characters, Bay, or B, Beatrice, but pronounce it however you like, B, Greg, and May all share a common occurrence, which is the death of a family member or close friend. It is explained from the onset that May's grandfather recently died in hospital, passing on his inquisitive nature to his granddaughter as well as a crate full of old books. Greg deals with feelings of abandonment as he believes that one of his closest friends, Casey, up and left him out of the blue with no explanation, while finally it is revealed through dialogue that Bay's mother died of cancer in her senior year at high school. The reason why this is significant is because you can see how each traumatic event changed these characters in different ways. May greatly misses her granddad, but she doesn't let it destroy her worldview. She often mentions him fondly in passing, usually when speaking to her parents or other adults, recollecting valuable life lessons that he was able to pass down to her. Greg, on the other hand, becomes more bitter as a result of Casey's departure. Greg throughout the entire game is by far the most energetic and talkative of the bunch, but whenever Casey is brought up, he becomes almost silent, resorting to one-word responses such as "yeah" and speculating that he knew Casey always wanted to leave, so he shouldn't be that surprised that he did. Greg's boyfriend Angus, as well as Bay, both remark to May that Casey's absence affected Greg much more than he lets on. This is also evident when May finds out that Greg is planning on saving up to move all the way to Bright Falls. This depresses May as she doesn't want to lose what little friends she has left. Greg doesn't see this as an issue, however, as he longs for a fresh start with Angus and believes there is just so much more out there for him than his hometown. I believe it is his interpretation of Casey's decision that causes him down this path of thinking. He wants the fresh start that his friend apparently achieved. And finally, we come to Bay. It is clear from the onset that she is emotionally distant, often responding to the others sarcastically and refraining from talking about her personal experiences. This is most evident after the party in the woods where May gets extremely drunk and presses Bay about her demeanour as well as her family. Bay stops the car and tells May that her mother is dead, that she died a few years back, and forces May to get out of the car. It is apparent throughout the game that Bay's parents are the main reason behind the way she is. She is almost exclusively seen with a cigarette in her mouth, as well as makeup applied generously at all times. She sees herself as the default matriarch of her family, as she single-handedly runs the family business, as well as does all the grocery shopping in her household. It is explained that her father had a mental breakdown after her passing, and never really recovered, often described as being unable to get off the couch most days. The examples passed down to her from her parents have made Bay the most bitter and jaded of the group. She states how that most days she is unhappy, that she doesn't have any friends other than Greg and Angus, and that the only release she ever gets is going to a town a 2-hour drive away and pretending that she is someone else, a college student who has it all figured out. May thinks that Bay is the strongest person she knows as she has persevered through so much and holds a cool, calm, and alternative demeanour. In reality, Bay is the most broken character in the game, and that brings us to our next theme, of balancing responsibilities. Greg, Angus, and Bay all work 7 days a week in order to save up a large amount of money. We know Angus and Greg do this because they want to escape their hometown, they want a fresh start. Bay does this because she feels an obligation to her father and believes that unlike Greg and Angus, there is no hope for her future. She is simply stuck and will never be able to escape her life. May goes through the game having shirked her greatest responsibilities. She is a college dropout. She left college because she was unable to deal with the expectations of her family, as well as juggle her deteriorating mental state. May feels like she is a letdown to her family. She is the first one of them to even attend college, and both her parents and Bay are amazed that she was able to just throw away such a huge opportunity. May also feels the pressure after hearing about her own parents' current dilemmas. They are in heavy debt, struggling to pay their mortgage, as well as her father being forced to work a job in a supermarket that he absolutely despises. As May, you are sometimes able to choose your own responses to all of these characters, implanting your own morality into the story. What is best about this dialogue wheel mechanic is that even though you may suggest ideas contrary to others' beliefs, it doesn't mean they will blindly accept what you are proposing. Telling your father that he can always work somewhere else prompts him to explain how there is simply no other work in town, and that if they have any chance of keeping the house, both him and May's mother are forced to stay in jobs they hate. Pressing Bay about her family will cause her to defend herself. You can tell her that she deserves to be treated better and doesn't have to comply to all the whims of her father, and it will leave Bay dumbfounded. She will call May out on her relative lack of life experience and tell her that she will just never understand how hard it is for people that don't adhere to her narrow and more naive worldview. Some other issues the game tackles are sexuality, miscarriages, physical abuse, and the existence of God. Greg and Angus are a homosexual couple that is widely accepted throughout the community. May's mother calls May her miracle child, as her and her father had lost many babies and had been unable to conceive before she came along. And the awful story of Angus, where he describes how his mother used to beat him and lock him in the cupboards for days at a time, and how that caused him to lose his faith in God. He explains how he used to pretend he had telekinetic abilities and attempted to contact the neighbours or passers-by telepathically to come and help him. These issues do not have simple answers and don't necessarily make the characters stronger as a result. Despite what every Hollywood movie or every cheap advice line in the book states, most of the characters in this game are broken. And it's not shown that they can become better people as a result of it, or that they will ever rise above these demons that plague them. And that, I think, is where the greatest value of Night in the Woods is. It does not provide clean-cut black and white answers. It instead is very impactful and implores the player to actually consider these problems from a real-world perspective. Not everyone gets a happy ending. Not everyone is all sunshine and roses all of the time. But that doesn't mean you can't understand them and you can't continue to get up in the morning and persevere. This is more than just a video game. It has inherent value that tackles subject matter that most games in this day and age actively avoid. That's why this game deserves a video like this. That's why pieces of media can be looked upon as pieces of art. Night in the Woods does an exceptional job of highlighting the reality of being a young adult in 2017. And I truly believe that there is subject matter here that can relate to just about anyone who has experienced great adversity during their early adult years. Here at Dissension Media, we offer hope, but sometimes the answer isn't that simple. Sometimes blind faith isn't a realistic option when faced with disaster. If you are interested in morally ambiguous coverage of unique media, then please like and subscribe to Dissension Media. This first video will be a bit rough as it's, tinkering with a formula we haven't worked with before, but if you have any suggestions for further worthy additions to this series, then don't hesitate to let me know. Until then, let's just keep swimming.